You have a fantastic email newsletter that goes out on a regular basis that always has really, really good content about it's not just about writing books, but it's just about how to write great content. Sometimes it's about books, sometimes it's about blog posts, and other times it's about other types of content. So can you just share with our listeners, you know, one of the things you and I've talked about is that how can you write better blog posts, and how can you, like for me, let me just start that little bit over again, because I want to just add this little caveat. At some stage in my life, I'm going to write a business book. I've got lots of stuff in my head, and I am going to write a business book at some stage. But, you know, the thought is daunting about, even though I've got experience as a writer, a paid writer, it's a daunting thought to try and put all of those words on paper in a cohesive way that's going to be engaging, that people are going to want to read. So you were talking to me a while ago about, you know, the idea of making sure that you can create a series of blog posts. And if you're smart about it, you can actually turn those blog posts into an actual book. Can you just talk to us, for our listeners, and just some pointers and thoughts about that? How to write great blog content with the idea in the back of the head that someday you're going to turn it into a book.
Lovely. I'd be delighted to. So first, you know, step one is starting with who, as we've already discussed. Step two, I think, is defining your objectives for your content. So what are you doing it for? And you're not going to keep doing it unless you are really clear about your objectives. So you might have an objective of building trust amongst a niche audience. You might have an objective of getting people to sign up to your newsletter. That could be another objective. And your other objective could be, I am going to ultimately collate this material into a book. If that's one of your objectives, then there's a very useful thing to consider in terms of how you evolve your content over, say, a year. And that is to make sure you have an equal amount of why content. I'm going to come back and define this, an equal amount of what content and an equal amount of how content. So in a book, we want to cover off the why. So the why read this book kind of thing. So if you are, you know, say your specialty area is leadership, then you want to talk about why we need good leadership, or why we have bad leadership, or why the leaders who fail to sort of develop have an impact on the bottom line. You know, why? So we need to meet people with where their problems are. Or we might say, you know, why aren't I a great leader? I know all the technical stuff, so why am I failing to engage my team? So we might start at that very, very personal level. So you might write a whole series of blogs or posts that start to break down the why of your topic. So in my, you know, area, why write a book? Why have a blog? Why not just have a marketing page? You know, why do we actually have content? And some of this is terribly prosaic. You know, we have blog content because Google has an algorithm that recognizes original content. That's prosaic. We have another why for blog content is that, you know, it is incredibly effective for building trust and a perception of value, a reality of value, I hope, with your audience. So consider perhaps trying to cover off perhaps, you know, 8 to 10 of your posts around the why of your topic. Then there's the what. So the what is where we challenge our audience to think differently. So it's what Trudy brings to the topic that you are talking about that's different to what I bring or what other writers on the topic bring. And we all build on knowledge that's gone before us. So I think it was Sir Isaac Newton who said we stand on the shoulders of giants. But so our difference, the different thinking that that we bring, it doesn't have to be completely rocket science. So one difference that I bring is that in terms of books is that you can write a brilliant book in 90 days. So there's lots of people who tell you how to write books. I tell you how to write a brilliant one in a short period of time. And that's the different thinking that I bring to this topic. In terms of, so what is it that you think about your topic that's different? If it's leaders, then maybe it's about, you know, what is the demand of leaders today compared to perhaps 10 or 20 or 50 years ago? That could be one of the areas of what that you talk about. So, and you may even just define it, you know, what is leadership? What is leadership today compared to yesterday? You know, what is the demand of leadership? So you can, you know, it's really just, if you're wondering, I'll come back to how you generate these ideas, these topics, but you want some on what, maybe 10. And then you have how, you know, so how do you become a great leader? How can you behave differently as a leader? How are leaders created? You know, are they born or are they made? You know, so we really go in to inspire our readers with how content. So what you end up with at the end of your year, perhaps if you're blogging every fortnight, you'll end up with 26 posts. So you might divide them evenly between the why, the what, and the how. And that will work quite elegantly to bring together the basis, at least, for your book. So you've covered off your 3 objectives, the third one being perhaps to pull those together at the end into a book. In my first book, Sticky Content, is really a collation of my first few years of content around blogging. So I did it myself in that case.
Mm-hmm. No, I think that's really useful because it helps to take something that sounds really big and scary and overwhelming and breaks it down into bite-sized chunks where you're just doing one blog post every fortnight. And in a year's time, you're going to have the first draft, at least, of a book. And then obviously you have people who help with the editing and things like that. Well, at least I would. I mean,